Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Not a Sheep podcast. My name's Narwhal. I'm here with my buddy Matt.
What's up?
And we're also joined by JZAC.
What's good? What's good?
What's up, man? Thank you for doing this. We really appreciate you coming on here and talking with us.
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate you guys having me. This is dope.
Yeah, it's exciting. You just had a new project come out called It's Kind of a Long Story. So we wanted to talk to you a whole lot about that, as well as just kind of your history in the music scene and your journey, because you've been at this for a long time now.
For sure. Time has definitely flown.
What's it been like? Like, what's just the backstory of your journey kind of been like? Because I found you back when I was in high school through the 10 Laws video, the Questions video, and then through like Swaggy Tracks was a big thing. You were popping off on Swaggy Tracks for a while.
Yeah,
and it's just funny because like I found you so long ago, and just following your journey's been really cool. Mm-hmm. What's it been like for you?
It's been dope, man. I mean, a lot of just ups and downs and like consistency and whatnot, and just like kind of taking all the shit in and like figuring it out as I go, I guess.
On your project, you talk about like how you kind of made the decision to move from Maine. Is that where you're originally from?
New Hampshire.
Or New Hampshire?
Yeah.
New Hampshire.
But yeah, close, super close.
And then move all the way out to LA and like leave your girlfriend and your family at the time.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? Like, what led up to that decision to move out there and pursue this? Because I feel like, I don't know, the music scene's definitely changed since, how many years ago did you move out there?
Almost 2. So it hasn't been too long.
Okay. But what was that kind of decision like? Like, what led up to that?
I think it was just like career-wise, the step that made the most sense. I had been doing music. I mean, obviously, you guys know it's no secret with the internet, just buzzing the way it is now. Like, you don't have to be in a certain city or whatever to pop off or anything. But I was doing everything just remote and online and building a fan base and whatnot. And I had already like made a bunch of connections and stuff in LA and had friends there. So it just made sense. At the point in my career, I was like, me and my producer, my manager, were like, fuck it, let's just send it to LA. Like, I'll move out here together because we all knew people, and it kind of would just help expand the brand and like do things in a city where like we couldn't do back home. It's kind of limiting in like the actual scene of things.
That's an interesting topic because a lot of people nowadays are, a lot of people are leaving LA right now, actually. And a lot of people, I think, have the idea that, well, a few years ago, it felt like, if you had to be in LA for Hollywood or for music, like if you're an actor or a musician, like that's the place to be. But now, like, I feel like people's mindsets are kind of changing about it. But for you, do you feel like LA was kind of a necessary step? Like, because did you feel that if you stayed in New Hampshire, like you wouldn't have been able to make the moves you wanted to make?
People, yeah.
I think yes and no. I mean, I'm definitely not like, you got to move here if you want to do this shit. Like, some people have that mind state, and it's just like, that's not the truth. But I think just where I was at, I'm like, we're recording, like we have our own recording studio at home. Like, we're doing everything online. Why not move to LA? Because we're doing the same shit anyway, but now we have an in-person network too. So it was kind of just like the best of both worlds, and it made sense. And I think everyone's situation is a little different. But for me, it was nice to just get out too. And, like move to the West Coast and just like try some new shit. Cause I basically grew up in New Hampshire, Massachusetts area my whole life. So it's just refreshing to like get to a new city and try new things and meet new people and whatnot. And obviously, yeah, I mean, the music scene here is crazy. So it just made sense.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of like where you grew up, I noticed you had a line in the new project, like about, I can't live in Derry no more or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that like the city from It? Is that the same place? The movie?
Yeah,
It?
yeah. I think it's I think that's in England, Derry, or some shit.
Really?
I think so.
I thought it's in Derry, Maine.
Oh no. Oh no, you might be right. But I'm Derry, New Hampshire.
Oh, it's a different.
But, okay.
Yeah. That's funny though. Yeah, so you're out in LA now. I noticed in one of your songs called Oldies, was that a single that it came out a few months ago, right?
Yeah, a few months back.
That video's sick, by the way. It's really cool.
Appreciate that.
But yeah, I was wondering, like, you had a line in there about, you've been making music for 7 years and now I don't know exactly what you say, but it's like finally starting to kind of pop off.
Right.
Do you feel like, has there been some sense of like, I've been doing this shit for so long, like I deserve more recognition? Like, do you feel that way, or do you feel that like you're where you're at and like that's where you should be, or do you feel this sense of like, why is it not bigger?
I think it comes in waves of both of those. Some days I'm like, fuck this, I should be the biggest artist in the world, like just like my ego thinking. But then other times I'm like, it takes a lot of hard work to like even get to any sort of level, especially in such a competitive field, where I'm like, all right, I think I'm doing all right. And I finally, like, after all the years I put into it, I'm like, finally, I feel like I'm in my bag, like comfortable. And I have some confidence in this shit. So I think, like I was saying, it comes in waves of like, depends on the day. Sometimes I'm like, damn, I should be up here type of thing. But then sometimes I'm like, I take a step back and I humble myself. I'm like, all right, I think I'm doing all right.
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty common thing with like artists, especially like rappers. It's like they feel like they have to feel like they need to be the best artist. Like they always say like it's best to like everyone should feel like they're the greatest rapper in the game, but it's like the ones that say it are the ones that always get called out.
Right, for sure. I think it's just rap, hip hop in general. Like the competition aspect is so cutthroat with that stuff, and there's a lot of like braggadocious type lines where you're obviously going to talk your shit and be like, I'm the best. Everyone's claiming they're the best or striving to be. So I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah. Do you feel that you've been rapping for so many years? Did you ever get to a point where you feel like you felt like dry, like out of content or out of like the inspiration? Or do you feel like you're kind of keep leveling up and keep getting like that next wave of like inspiration for your music?
Yeah, I think it's just another wave for me. Like I was saying, I feel like I'm just getting good, like personally. Like I've been doing it. I feel like I've put in my like 10,000 hours now.
Yeah.
Where I start to write songs or just create in general, and I'm like, I could feel myself being like, all right, I know what I'm doing now, as opposed to like 4 or 5 years ago, I was just like throwing things at a wall and hoping it stuck.
Yeah.
But I think that just comes with like anything you do, putting an insane amount of hours into, like you're just gonna progress and get better at it.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of like that time period when artists, like when you're trying to figure it out and you're just throwing stuff at the wall hoping something sticks, like for you, was it the questions and like 10 laws, like those were kind of your biggest things at the time, right?
Yeah.
When you look back on videos and songs like that from like 4, 5, 6 years ago, do you like cringe at them, or do you still like them? Like, are you still happy with those?
I think I'm still happy with them for sure. Certain stuff I see, I definitely cringe, but I think that's just like most artists when they look back on their old work,
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
But I mean, those videos and songs like got me to where I am, and they're still dope. And then people like still reach out to me about them today. So they're like, yo, I still fuck with this song, like in rotation. So then that kind of reassures me. I'm like, all right, this was super dope. Like,
Yeah.
but it's easy to be,
sure.
it's easy to be hard on yourself, especially with old work, like any type of artist, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever had the urge to like take stuff like that down, or have you taken down old music that you feel like, all right, this was like, I liked it at the time, but I realize now I'm not.
I've like grown past it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've taken down not like a lot of stuff, but there's definitely videos and stuff that even from like 5 years ago where I'm like, all right, like I got to pull this. And then like I kind of sneak it by, like, cause it's not like the most popular thing. It's usually some older work, but there's always that one dude that reaches out to me like randomly and be like, yo, I was looking for this song on SoundCloud last night and I didn't find it. Did you delete it? I'm like, fuck.
You're like, nah, man, I don't know. That's crazy. I don't know what happened.
It's got to be somewhere up there. Like,
you're an independent artist, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was researching and I saw like Tribe Entertainment. Is that still like a thing?
Is that your
that's just
what is Tribe Entertainment?
That's just the record label me and my producer started. Like we had released music under like since we met like 5-6 years ago. Yeah. So it was just us, and that was
That's awesome. It's cool that you said that you, your manager, and your producer all moved to LA together. That's kind of crazy that you guys
You all had like the same vision to like
you all
really
had
go
the
do
same
that.
vision and like willing to take the risk. It's pretty cool that you guys were all on the same page.
Right. Yeah, I know a lot of people just like when they're working with like other people chasing a dream or whatever, like people will talk the talk about doing something, but then when it's time to actually like take action, people kind of back out or like, get iffy about something. But no, yeah, like our team is like, once we decided we were moving out here, we're like, all right, this is a full send. We're gonna do this. This isn't just a decision you can like be half in on type of thing.
Yeah. Well, and you have that line in the new project. I don't know the exact line, but it's about like it's not as cool when you're winning and like people around you aren't. Like something about when you go cash the checks, like you want everyone around you to be winning. So like I think it's important to have that group of people that you all can rely on and like trust in.
100%. And it just makes like winning feel better when there's people you fuck with around you that you're sharing that win with, as opposed to like just being solo,
Yeah, right. For sure. So before we like jump in and talk about the new project, something that just happened yesterday was, well, Matt, do you want to explain what happened for maybe the people who didn't hear about it?
Yeah, so Spotify, I don't know if they officially announced, but everyone's been talking about it on like social media that they're going to set up this new system where they give algorithmic boosts to artists that are willing to cut Spotify a percentage of their earnings. And we wanted to get your perspective as an independent artist that's been in the game for a while. And like, what do you think about everything?
Right. Yeah, I saw that article floating around yesterday, and like mad artists were just like
losing their minds,
going nuts. Yeah, I think I tweeted some shit too. I was kind of just like playing around. But I said something along the lines of, I'm gonna pull it up because it's funny you said that. I said they said we'll give you 0.003 whatever cent per stream. Actually, we'll take a piece of that too.
Literally.
But no, it's true. Like, sorry, continue.
I was just saying, I don't know. Like you were saying, I don't know if Spotify officially announced that. So I think it's still like rumored, or they're just like slowly feeling it out. So I don't know if like, I haven't done much research into it, so I don't want to say like this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Whatnot. But yeah, if that were the case, I mean, that just seems shitty for independent artists if we're being real.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it something that, like, I think it is still rumors, but if it were to end up taking place, is that something that you think a lot of independent artists would get behind and boycott? Or is that something that you feel like people are talking it right now, but you don't think a lot of, like, what would things change for you? Would you join in and be like, all right, we got to get off Spotify, or?
Right. Yeah, I think it's tough to say. Obviously in a perfect world, like, yeah, everyone's like, we're going to boycott this, but I mean,
I don't see that happening.
Right. I mean, Spotify is also the most popular streaming platform. Like, to just pull all your music on it or like decide not to upload on Spotify anymore might be a tough decision to make. So I don't know. I guess I'd have to see how it would play out. But yeah, I definitely want to like know more info about it and whatnot.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be interesting. This guy named Crypt, I follow, he said every artist and their brother will want to do this, completely flooding the algorithmic boost, which just means you'll be taking less royalties for where you already are. So like,
kind of defeats the whole purpose of it, and it's just going to eventually, if this were to happen, lead to artists earning less for the same thing they were doing before. But
right.
Yeah. And it's already like a percentage of a cent, which is insane. For a while, artists have been trying to get like Spotify to raise the...
Well, and recently too, it was kind of like a big trend. Like, this couldn't have come at like a worse time. Like, I've seen a lot of people saying like they need to raise it to a penny per stream, but that's already like a huge raise for what it's already at.
Yeah. Yeah. What are your thoughts like on the state of like being an independent artist right now and trying to make it through like streams and stuff like that, especially during COVID? Like, I don't know, what's your perspective on it as someone who like at the point now where you're like living off the music, but you're not like mega superstar famous, like what's your perspective on it?
I mean, it would be dope, obviously, if they raised the money per stream, especially on Spotify. I think Apple Music pays out a little higher, and then Tidal might pay out the highest, but like nobody uses Tidal.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I think like Spotify's revenue from the streaming is usually like double the amount on average. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see the streams payouts go up. I think they will in due time. I don't know if it's going to be something that like happens next year or anything, but I think as streaming, it just becomes the more norm. I mean, it's already the norm, but like as it keeps moving on within maybe the next 5-10 years, it'll go up, but I think it'll be like a slow, very slow process, a slow, painful process, and it probably won't go up by much.
Yeah. Now, for someone of your size, like how much do you depend on things outside of just streams to like make make a living? Like, do you, I guess a couple things. Have you gone on tour? And then also like, do you sell like hard copies or like in merch and stuff like that?
Yeah, merch for sure. About to roll that out for the new album. And then I didn't really tour too much pre-COVID era.
Yeah.
I did make some money off shows like here and there. But I know some artists obviously like tour like crazy and that's like their bread and butter.
Right.
But me, it was mostly just relying on like streams, merch, publishing, that type of stuff.
Is touring something you'd like to do more in the future? Like once things are back to normal, do you want to do like a nationwide tour or something like that? Or
yeah, 100%. I feel like a lot of artists have the same story, but I was like definitely planning to do some tours this year. We were starting to really plan stuff out, and then obviously that's kind of out of the question. But once we're good to go, then we're definitely going to send it.
Right. Yeah, sweet. Well, speaking of your new project, called It's Kind of a Long Story, right?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Let's just dive into it because Matt and I have been listening to it on repeat. It's been amazing. I love it. And I've listened to it like all your projects from the past years. So this one, I don't know, to me, this one felt like just special for some reason. So I wanted to kind of have you just tell the backstory of it. Like how did this come to be?
Yeah. So this is the first album I dropped in like a little over 2 years. I was kind of just focusing on like singles before this. So still dropping a good amount of music, but just like in the streaming era, obviously it's a lot. It just makes more sense to just kind of drop singles one at a time. But then, I was ready to drop a body of work and I had fans hitting me up like they had been ready for an album. So that kind of played into the theme of it, of it's kind of a long story because people are like, yo, what the fuck? It's been 2 years since you dropped a project. So I'm like, let me kind of catch you up on my life in the last 2 years. And I just really love that saying, like if you're talking to someone being like, well, it's a long story, but then like, obviously you dive into the album and it explains things and it kind of clears things up and catches you up to speed on where I've been. Yeah.
Well, and a lot of people, whenever someone says it's kind of a long story, like most people want to know, like, all right, well, we got the time. So like,
right.
Let's dive into it. Like, tell me about it.
All right. Now you said it. So go on.
Yeah.
Right.
So you said the first album dropped in 2 years. So is this the first project you've done in LA, like a full project?
Yeah. Yeah. This is the first one. Mm-hmm.
So the inspiration was, it's been a while. Fans have been wanting this. So you wanted to kind of catch them up on your life. Like what had changed or how much were things different since, your last project? Because your life has clearly changed a lot. Did that inspire a lot of the songs on the project?
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's just, one, personal growth, me just growing, maturing as a person or whatever. And then two, kind of just like my situation. So if you look at the album cover, and like really zoom in on certain things, there's like points throughout it you see that are like covered throughout the project. So there's like, you obviously like the Hollywood Hills are in the background. So I had made the move from New Hampshire to LA, like we were talking about earlier. There's like a little Frito-Lay van tucked in the back because back home I was working a part-time job at a Frito-Lay warehouse, like still grinding on the music shit, but not doing it full time yet. There's a like little Mazda tucked away that has a for sale sign on it, which was my car back home. And that car among like my fan base kind of like people knew that car because I was always like rapping and dropping freestyles in the Mazda. And I had like a lot of viral videos that took off. And then when I was moving out here, I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to sell my car. It's like old. But it was like, that was like an era of time, Yeah. So it's like these little things that kind of just changed when I moved, and obviously just making the move was kind of just a big change itself. So, and pursuing music full time and like really, really doing this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and even 2 years ago, like before you moved, you said you were working at like Frito-Lay part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a lot of the artists we've interviewed so far, that's a common theme. I think a lot of people think that if someone has like a good amount of listeners, that it's just like, oh yeah, this guy's like famous. He's like a rapper. But like,
Right.
I think a lot of people don't realize that it's really tough to actually make it a full-time thing. And a lot of people are grinding outside of music. Like we were talking to a guy who's like doing DoorDash every day just to make that extra income. And like, I don't know, I think it's cool that you share that side of that stuff in your music.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, it might be easier now that I'm doing music full time to speak about it, but I used to be like kind of not embarrassed, but like I wouldn't talk about it, you know, because like for that reason you were saying, like people see numbers or they see this online persona and they're like, bro, you're amazing. And then I'm just like, yeah, I'm still like working this random dead end job. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think people perceive it different. So I kind of like, I didn't talk about it much. But then I was like, fuck it. I got to embrace this because it's part of the grind. And like you were saying, like, this is what a lot of artists really do, especially independent artists who, you know, don't have an advance given to them or anything. Like they're paying everything out of pocket. So I think like that angle of the story is cool to talk about. And I was finally excited to just like speak about it to my fans and be like, yo, it's a part of the hustle and it's okay to grind and just like work. You know what I mean? Not everything's like sunshine and rainbows. Like this shit's a grind.
Yeah. And I think a lot of your listeners probably love hearing stuff like that. It's like when you hear,
inspiring. Yeah,
it's inspiring to hear your favorite artist was doing exactly what you're doing. Like someone's probably on their shift, like listening to your music, and they're like, "Damn, like that's me right now." You know,
for real. I used to like dream of those times, like mid shift, being like, "Man, I can't wait till I can quit this job and like just be doing music and like locked in a studio in LA." And then I eventually got to that point. So like when I look back on it, I'm like, this can be done, you know? So for like anyone listening, even if they're not chasing music necessarily, but they're like not where they want to be at in their life, like take inspiration from that and be like, things will change over time. Like as long as you keep grinding and staying consistent and focused on your vision.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Before you didn't really want to share that aspect of your life and your music, that like you had this part-time job or whatever. And I think a lot of people, myself included, feel the same way, where it's like, you don't really want to share it until you're past it,
right?
You know, like you don't want to share this until you've
leveled
proven
up.
That yeah. But like it is interesting because I feel like if an artist did share that when they're in the midst of like this grind,
right,
people respect that a lot. Like you think that people are gonna like shit on you or think it's weird or like not cool, but like a lot of people respect that hustle.
Yeah, and there's always going to be people that have that negative feedback, but that's just with whatever it is you do.
Yeah, that's just where they're at in their life. They're just going to project that shit on you. But for sure, no, I agree. I mean, especially like nowadays where everything's just like a highlight reel on social media, you know, like you don't want to show your faults or whatever. So like, to have like a side hustle or whatever, and not like to show people you're not, I guess, perfect or like not show the best version of yourself is kind of intimidating. But once you do it, you realize it's way more relatable than like, look at me, everything's perfect in my life. Like nothing's wrong. Like I'm smiling all the time. It's like, nah, no one's really like that.
Yeah. Well, and then, you know, where you're at now, like now you're in LA doing what you wanted to be doing a few years ago. Do you still, I don't know, I assume that like there's still times when you feel like not satisfied, but then like, do you have to remind yourself like, damn, a few years ago, like I would have killed to be doing this right now? Or like, do you still have moments when you're in LA and you're like not satisfied, I guess?
Yeah, every day. I'm like not where I want to be at all, you know, like, and I'm like, fuck, what we were talking about earlier. I'm always like, it's just that like hunger for more, which is kind of can be dangerous at times because you're just like, you're always just thinking about the next thing or the next thing. Or I need more streams. I need more fans. I need to like elevate this more. But then, yeah, like, which I think is super important. But then you also have to like find that balance of taking the step back and being like, me from 3 years ago seeing this now would be like so happy.
Holy shit.
Yeah, like this is
Right,
insane.
yeah.
So like finding the balance of those two is key, because you also don't want to like be like, I did it, I moved to LA, I made it, and then like start slacking
It's
crazy.
like, now
and
what?
yeah.
Yeah. So one of my favorite lines on the whole project is in your song Top. You say, I got a fear over getting complacent. Too many friends with a talent that wasted. Feel like it bothers me more than it bothers them. How is that possible, homie? I hate it. I think I got that right.
Yeah.
But
right on the head.
bro, like, I don't know. For me, like, it's just the lines that are the most relatable that end up being like my favorite song on the project usually.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like for me, that one hit home because I feel like Matt and I are like grinders, and we have been forever, and we're like all about like, yo, let's make this shit happen. But like, we also got some buddies that I just feel like no matter what you do, you just like can't get them to like have that mindset.
Right.
And so I was just like, I don't know. That's my favorite line, and I just wanted to talk to you about it. Like, what inspired that, or like,
yeah.
What's
That's
the
funny you said
backstory?
that. That's like one of my favorite lines on the project
That's
too.
sweet.
Just like hits home. Like when I wrote it, sometimes when you write a verse, it's cool, whatever, I finish it. But then like sometimes as I'm writing it, I'm like, all right, this is like, I'm like impressing myself. That's when you know something's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that line's just, I think that's just who I am as a person. I mean, like you were saying, I'm sure you guys can relate. Like when you're just working really hard at something, and you know, you have friends or family or whatever that's like super talented. Not even, I mean, it could be with what you're doing, or it could just be like in general, you see potential in them. And you just like know what can happen, but they don't apply themselves, or like they don't put in the work, or they kind of like give up on some shit. I've always just been that way. I'm like, that bothers me so much because I just like know people's potential.
Yeah.
So like seeing like, you know, if you have like a friend that's like, you know, is really talented musician or something, but they're just like not putting in the work, going to the studio. But when they do, it's like they're incredible. And you're like, yo, if you just like locked in, you could be a superstar. Like in my head, I'm always like, that's how I'm thinking about things.
Yeah. And there's times when someone's way more talented than you even, but
Right.
like, you're like, bro, I couldn't do that. What you just did in an hour, I couldn't do that in like a week.
Right.
If I wanted to. And
Right.
you're not doing shit with this.
It's the frustrating part, because you know how much talent goes into that. You're like, I couldn't pull that off if I tried, and you just have it in your back pocket, but you don't. You're not like putting in the work to just solidify it.
Yeah. Well, then there's like the saying, you know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And like, I feel like there's been so many times in my life where I've had friends where I'm like, I do everything I can to get you to want to like go all in on this and like double down. But like at a certain point, you just realize like, all right, that's on you. Like I can't help you anymore.
Right.
You know?
It's definitely felt that same way. Like I'll do anything I can for someone that I care about, or like I consider a good friend. Like I'll go above and beyond. But obviously sometimes you have to realize like you can't do the work for them, or you can't, you know, you can give them the handout, but like it's up to them at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have a favorite song on the album, or like what kind of holds a special place in your heart? Because there's got to be something that, you know, you're just like, I'm sure you love all of them. That's why you put them out. But like, which ones hit close to home the most?
It's kind of tough to like pick one. I think for me, it's like different moods, and like I have so many different approaches, like stylistically, like I love Move Away, because I'm like, my humble opinion, I'm like rapping my ass off.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo,
I saw the video for it yesterday.
Yeah, and I love how the video came out and everything.
Awesome.
But I'm like on my head, I'm like, yo, this is one of the dopest rap intros of the year. Like, fuck that, I'm talking my shit. But then, you know, I have like Questions Part 3, which is like a deeper cut, which is super cool. And like, I know fans would really relate to that one, and it would just be like a hit amongst the fan base.
Yeah.
And then Mama Said is really cool. That's another like introspective one where I'm kind of just like putting it all out there. And I collab with a guy from an artist from New Hampshire who's like been crushing it. This dude Brady Watt, he produced it and sung the hook. So to collab with somebody else from my state who's like just doing his fucking thing is super cool. Like he works with like a bunch of like legendary hip hop artists, and he's like got mad production credits on songs and stuff. So he sent that to me. I was like, love that beat. So that one was really cool. But yeah, like you were saying, all of them have kind of a special place in my heart.
Yeah. Well, I love in Mama Said, at the end, that's when you're saying like, when you were going to move away, you said, I'm going to come back with $1 million.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I thought that was so like, that's such a cool way to wrap up the project.
Yeah, for sure.
Matt, what's your favorite one?
I like Move Away. I just love the like energy kind of like when the album starts.
Right.
But yeah, like cause you're rapping like crazy.
Yeah. And it just like the bars just start, I think like 3 seconds in. So like, it's the first thing you hear when you press play on the album is just that. So like, I feel like it sets the tone in a cool way, which I've never done before. Yeah. On the other albums, they've been, I feel like just like a little slower, cool. Like it's still dope, but this one I was like, I just want to like just rap my ass off and set the tone.
Yeah, that's dope.
How important is the ordering and like the placement of the songs in a project for you? Like, is that something that a lot of thought goes into? Like, all right, I need to catch people's attention with this, and then maybe halfway through, I'm gonna hit them with a more introspective one, or like, what's the thought process behind that?
Yeah, I definitely think about it a lot. I'll wait till the end. I'll make like a bunch of songs and have like a loose idea in my head of what the structure will be like. But once I have like the final songs locked in, then I'll be able to sit down and be like, all right, this is going to come second, third. Or I'll be like, we could do a little cool outro on the end of this song to just like tie it right into the next song. And then that's when you can kind of have fun with the little stuff.
So for Questions Part 3, clearly like Questions was a really big hit for you back in the day. Has that been cool for you to kind of have a song like that where like you can
series,
have like a series that you can continue over the years?
Yeah. I didn't even like intentionally do it. I think the first one like just went pretty viral and people like loved it. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do a second one, just see what happens. And then I made a second one. People really enjoyed it. And then people would always ask, like, they'll be like, yo, you think you're gonna do a third one? And it didn't even pop into my head until like mad people started asking. And over time, I'm like, maybe I should make a third one. Like maybe I'll cap it off at 3. But then, I mean, I guess you never know. Like,
who knows?
A year or 2 down the line.
That stuff's cool though, because it's like I feel like it's important for fans to like have that kind of like the series, because it just gives them a little something to like always be looking for, and they're like, oh yeah, like I remember when Questions 2 came out,
right?
Like, that's that sort of stuff,
right?
Yeah.
That's how people that resonates with a lot of people. They'll be like, bro, I found you when Questions 2 part dropped, and like they always remember that moment in their head, like that's when they first discovered me.
Yeah,
right, yeah.
It must be cool for you when you hear like. Do you get messages where someone's like, yo, like I just found your new project and now I'm listening to your stuff from like 5 years ago. Like, does that happen a lot? Like, that's probably got to be cool knowing that you just got a new fan and like now they're kind of hooked and like they'll probably be a fan for the rest of time.
Yeah. That's the good thing about having just a catalog and doing things for a long time. Cause then, it's not like I'm a new artist where I have 3 songs out. People are like, yo, I fuck with that. And then they kind of forget about you because you have like barely anything out. It's like people are like, all right, let me see what this dude's about, like this one song, and they're like, holy shit, there's 3-4 albums to go off, and they'll just like go down the rabbit hole of like everything. And like you said, yeah, they'll be like, bro, I just caught up on everything, like I'm a fan for life.
Yeah.
Like, damn, that's really cool.
That's awesome.
That's like why Russ was so successful, is like when he was doing his song a week thing and then he finally took off, it's like people had like 11 albums to go back through. So it's like he was just like getting like hella streams from that. But yeah.
Exactly.
With anything in the media, like the new online space, having a huge catalog is important. Like with podcasts, even like this show, we only got like 20 episodes because we recently started. So like we don't have a huge catalog, but with the other show that I do that's a bit bigger than this one called Peak to Middle School, we have 190 episodes. And so like if we get a new fan, someone goes and listens to like 180 of the first episodes.
Yeah.
And it's like a bunch of views.
Yeah.
With the song, I think it's Before the Ship Sinks. Is that's what it's called, right?
Yep.
That was the one about your friend that kind of called you when his dad died?
Yep.
Bro, that one just is fucking like depressing, but it's also one of my favorites. Like I have this weird like attraction to really like sad songs that
Same.
just like hit home.
Same.
I don't even know what my question is really. I just wanted to talk about that song.
For sure. That song is another one of my favorites. I mean, like we were talking about, they all hold a special place, but that one was cool. That was the last song to make the album. And one of my homies had the loop, like just the loop, and he sent it to me and I was like, yo, this is fire. He was like, where we should like make a beat, like finish it out. And then I hit him up, I think like 3 hours later. I was like, I just wrote it. I wrote the song. And he was like, you just wrote it on a loop? Like there's nothing there. And I was like, yeah, like
That's
sometimes
amazing.
I just, especially with like deeper stuff that hits home, like just that loop kind of like lets me paint the picture better, as opposed
It's
to
like
being
a blank
like
canvas. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I was like, yeah, I got the whole song. Like we just have to build the beat around this. And then we took it to my producer Rocky and did that. Like we literally built it up and just made it sound more grand and whatnot. So, and then yeah, we finished that song and we were like, all right, I think the album's done.
That's dope.
How is that rare for you to kind of just be that inspired by a beat or by a loop? And like usually do you create the song around a beat and not the other way around?
Yeah. So like 90% of the time it'll be like a finished beat and I'll just make the song. But yeah, once in a while someone will just send me a loop or something and I'm like, I gotta work. Like it just like clicks. The on switch turns on. I'm like, I can't wait. I just gotta write this now while the inspiration's there, type of thing.
Yeah.
That's like what Levi was saying with like Channel. Another artist we had on here was talking about like with his producer, like sometimes the beats just like the beat tells him like what to write about. It's like that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
You just go and it comes out.
100%. You gotta act on that because that feeling doesn't come all the time. You know, there's so many slow days in the studio, or like you have writer's block, or you make some shit and you're like, that was cool, like whatever, move on. But when you get that, like you feel really good about something, like capitalize on that moment because you don't know how long it's going to be there. That inspiration might run out in like a couple hours and you might not see it for a couple weeks.
And I think relating to that, another huge thing is like knowing in your heart if you made something dope, even if other people maybe don't like get it or don't fuck with it, like you're like, yo, I know this is what I want to make. And I feel like oftentimes those are the things that come out the best. Like other people might not really get it, but you're just like, yo, like this is it. And
yeah, a lot of those songs like stand the test of time and are like ones that people come back to, even if they're not like the big hit right off the bat.
Right. And it just makes you happy at the end of the day. And I think that's all that matters when you're creating. Like, as long as I'm like, this is a really good song, this is what I strive to do, I'm good. I don't give a fuck if it gets 20 plays. Obviously, you want it to be the biggest song, but like, you know, when you go back and listen to that song a year or two later, and it's like hits just as hard, you're like, all right, I did it.
Yeah,
I'm cool.
Right.
Whoever appreciates it will. And then if it gets overlooked, like whatever.
When you go and create a song like Before the Ship Sinks, that's like a really emotional, like personal song like that, particularly if it's about like someone else kind of.
Yeah.
I've always wondered, I've never had a chance to talk to someone about this who's done it, but like, do you talk to the person, your friend that it's about during the process of that or before it or after it? Or do you make it and then just like hope that they're like cool with it or like that they like it?
Yeah.
You know?
I just send it. Like I don't usually hit them up, honestly. And that's always a tough thing for me too. Cause I'm like, you know, it's one thing talking about my own issues and whatnot. Cause I'm like, that's on me. But like to just like throw somebody else in a song, I'm always like, fuck, like you didn't ask for that. I don't know if you, but at the end of the day, like I always have, it's never in like, I don't have like bad intentions, you know, or I'm never like putting someone on blast for the most part. I'm just like kind of openly speaking on things that happened. And I usually mean well. So every time I've done it, I've had people, friends and stuff reach out and been like shook, but in a good way. You're like, whoa, bro, like I appreciate that. Like I was almost in tears type of thing. And I'm like, whew, all right, we're good. Cause like I'm always dreading the text of being like, yo, what the fuck? Why'd you put me in a song type of thing? And I'm like, my bad. I can't take it down, but like, I won't do it again.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it's got to be cool for that that friend, or like if you make one about a family member or whatever, it's got to be cool for them if they didn't even know and they're just like, oh, yo, like he dropped his project finally, and they go listen and they're like, oh shit, that's me.
Especially when they know how much like music matters to you, because it's like they made an impact on like your passion.
Right, 100%. Yeah, it's got to come out of left field. They're just like hear their name or like no, I'm talking about them and be like, whoa, what the hell?
A lot of the project, the beginning and the end kind of tie together about it goes full circle about you leaving your hometown, leaving your family and like your friends and your mom. How much of that, like, what kind of impact has that had so far, like making that decision and like making this project? I guess, like, what did your mom think about the story that you've told, and like your family and friends? Like, what are their perspective on like your journey and the project and everything? Because it's got to be cool for them to hear that, you know?
No, for sure. I haven't talked to my mom directly about the album yet. So
she's probably listened to it though, do you think?
Maybe. I'm sure she will at some point. She's not like technologically savvy, so she's not like hopping on Spotify and but
yeah, she doesn't like follow all your stuff right when you release it.
Yeah, she's on Facebook, so she'll like keep up with like Facebook posts if I post something from like artist page. But I think overall everyone's just proud and happy that I'm happy and in a good place, and just doing things out here and making moves, like actually doing what I said I was gonna do. I didn't just like come out here for 6 months and be like, oh, failed. Go back home, like fuck it, I'll get a job and like try again. Like I came out here with a purpose, and everything's been working, like just networking and meeting a lot of really good, genuine people out here that have the same goal in mind, and just building a brand and everything. So I think it's dope, and everyone's happy.
What was kind of like the transition like when you first moved to LA? How did you, because that's got to be horrifying, especially LA being one of the most expensive places in like the country to live, and going out there kind of on a whim, I guess. I mean, I'm sure you had a plan, but what has kind of the process been like the last 2 years of living there and making a name for yourself and all that?
It's been good, man. I think just like you said, having a plan, but like there's only so much you can plan, you know? Right. I think obviously come prepared and like map things out accordingly, but don't try to like over plan it, because life never goes that way and you'll just end up stressing yourself out. I think that's one thing I've learned since I got out here. So like, yeah, when I originally got out here, I was like, all right, I'm just going to get settled in and figure this shit out. And like, hopefully it works. And I kind of just took it one day at a time, 1 month at a time. And then a month turns into 6 and a year. And now it's like about to be 2 years, and things are still working, and I'm still figuring it out. But I'm in a good place, and I know a lot of good people, and like everything is moving in an upward trend. So I'm like, it's going good, and fucking just keep rolling with it. We'll see what happens.
Like, I think a lot of our listeners are people that are like definitely fans of underground hip hop or are underground artists themselves. What is kind of the method for you of like reaching out to new artists you want to work with? Because like I feel like with smaller artists, like you either randomly DM someone and just hope they see it or like whatever. But like when you are trying to connect with new people or someone that you found in LA that like, yo, they'd be great on this song, like what's kind of your process like of reaching out to new people?
I think stuff like that, especially in person, is usually just like solely relationship based.
Right.
It'll be like, you know, you're in a session with one of your homies, and then like one of their friends like pops in because whatever, you know, it's like some sort of connection is established, and then they play their music and you're like, whoa, this dude's dope. And like, let me look him up. And you're like, oh, he's not even, he doesn't have like a ton of fans, but he's super talented. And I fuck with him as a person. Like I'm down to work. Like hit me up anytime you need a feature type of thing. As opposed to just like the internet, somebody just like blindly DMing me like, yo, listen to the song. It's like, I'll try to listen when I can. And if it's dope, like sometimes people have blown me away, and I'm like, I'll follow them and just like kind of keep up with them. But at times, like most of the time, there's no connection. I'm just like, even if I like the song, that's cool, man, keep it up, keep working. But you know, it's like when you connect in person, there's just a different relationship that's established and you can just, especially if someone's like a genuine person and you can just sense good energy, you want to help people. So that's kind of my stance on it, I think.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, like at my level of like being a really, really underground like artist, like they see the big stories of artists that are like, oh yeah, I randomly DM'd Futuristic and he put me on his album. It's like they see that and they think that's how it works.
Right.
And I don't think people understand that it's like it's important to like build a relationship, like you're saying, it's for it to actually like work the way it's supposed to.
For sure. Even online relationships too. It's the same way. Like if Futuristic, for instance, like follows you, it's like, that's really dope. But most people or some artists are just going to like be like, yo, bro, you followed me. That's so crazy. I have this song. Do you want to get on it? And it's like, like the first thing you're going to do when someone you fuck with follows you is like ask them for a favor. Like build that relationship, plant the seed for a year, like show them you actually care and fuck with their music. Or, you know, if they have a show in your city, whatever, pre-COVID, like pull up, show support and be like, yo, man, I actually follow you on Twitter. Like I reached out, and then that goes like so much further in their book. They're like, yo, you genuinely fuck with me. So like you kind of just plant these seeds, and then when the time is right, you know, something might come to fruition where like then you get a feature, as opposed to just people like shooting shots, which is cool and I get, but like you were saying, that's like a lottery ticket, and like most people just don't fuck with that.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and what you were saying about the developing a personal relationship, that sounds like a large benefit of you moving to LA. And like, that's the one thing that changes is like, you could probably do exactly what you're doing now, like music wise, except for all those relationships and people you've met that have added to your music that you wouldn't have got that connection with if you didn't move. And I think that, like you said at the beginning, you probably can make it anywhere, but like that's the added benefit of being in a place like a music hub like LA or like wherever, like Nashville for some people or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Granted, it's been like a crazy year with the COVID stuff, but yeah, LA is like, you know, there's a studio on every block. There's so many artists that live here, A&Rs, videographers, whatever. Like everyone that lives out here is doing something creative. So it's so much easier to connect with people that you want to work with than like, you know, being in a small town and you're like, oh yeah, I know this one dude from 2 towns over who's a videographer. He's like the only guy that's like legit that works around here. Or like there's one studio like 45 minutes like in the city. I got to travel there to like try to work out of it. Being here, it's like, this is the hub of it. So like everywhere you turn, there's something going on, which is dope.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's something that is potentially lost as an artist when you
like only collaborate through the internet?
Well, I don't really
sorry, I don't know if that was off.
I guess, do you think there's something lost when you like leave a small town or like a random place that's not like a central and you go to a place where it's like you said, everyone there is creative? Do you feel like it could ever get to a point where it's like you're surrounded by so many people all doing the same thing that it's like you lose that kind of spark of like that edge that you feel like you got to make it or something because like everyone there is like all doing it?
It's like normal at that point.
It's like normal, so it's no longer like this weird crazy dream. It's more of like it's just the standard. I don't know if that makes sense, but do you
I know
feel
what you're
like
saying.
Like adjusting to that lifestyle could like lose creativity or no?
I think it just depends where you're at personally, you know, it probably varies person to person. You know, it's not like I don't see myself living in LA for the rest of my life, but especially where I've just been in a small town where nothing's going on, I think it's just such a fresh change of pace to be in that scene. But I know what you mean with like, I mean, over time that could just get old, or the LA lifestyle in general, like you might just get over it and be like, I'm sick of this overpriced city where all these, you know, where all like a bunch of fake ass people try to come and pretend to be something they're not type of deal. So I think it's just kind of where you're at.
Yeah, for sure. Before we like kind of wrap this up here, something that Matt and I have done in our last few interviews that I think the listeners just really enjoy and like appreciate, and I think fans of you who make music will appreciate, is like, what type of advice or just like insight would you give to someone who's an underground up and coming artist that wants to make it and hopefully be at a point where you're at one day?
Yeah, for sure. So just general advice for like a fresh, I would say, I mean, I always say it's like kind of cliche stuff, but it's just, I guess, cliche because it's true. But just like staying consistent with what you do. Like, I know so many people that have put out songs for like a year or two and didn't see much growth, and they're like, bro, I tried everything, I got to give up. And it's like, like, you got to keep going. I put out music for like 3 or 4 years before like anybody even gave a fuck to the slightest. And it happens different for every person. So like, it's discouraging when you see somebody who put out one song and like the shit just blew up, which is super rare. It happens. It's like a lottery ticket. But when you're an upcoming artist and you see that, I think it just kind of like fucks with your head a little bit, because most of the people are just like grinding over time, and that's where you'll like eventually shine. But yeah, staying consistent. I think being self-aware of like who you are as an artist, what you do well in and what you lack, like where your lane is, I think is very important, because like, I mean, specifically rap now is just, the genre is so big. There's so many different subgenres of it. And if you could like capitalize on knowing what your fan base is, or what style of music you want to go in and build your brand off that, I think that helps a lot.
What lane do you feel like you have kind of found fits you over the years? Like, where do you feel like you fit in the hip hop world?
I think more of like on the lyrical storyteller kind of conscious rap type stuff, but still like a more modern type sound. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people will say like, a lot of people, for instance, like to listen to Logic will be like, I also fuck with you, you know? Right, so even just as an upcoming artist being like, oh, my fans also listen to like this person, so this lane makes sense. Like,
right. Yeah.
You know, I'm not trying to do songs with like Polo G, like trap type dudes, you know what I mean? Like, I probably wouldn't make the most sense. Not that I wouldn't, but like,
it's just different styles.
Yeah, like most of the time that fan base is probably not going to fuck with my music, which is cool.
Well,
like,
I personally, I noticed, first of all, your music video for Drunk is insane. That's
a great one. Yeah.
Super awesome video. Matt and I were watching that last night. I saw it when it first came out, but when I watched that, when I listened to that, I'm like, damn, this is like something that I think Joyner Lucas would put out.
Right.
And like, I got a lot of Joyner Lucas vibes from that, but then like you said, like when people hear different songs, they're probably like, oh, Logic or like whatever. Right. Does it ever bother you when it's like people are like, oh, yo, like you remind me of Logic? You're like, bro, like I'm not trying to be Logic.
Right.
Like, do you appreciate that?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like I get what they're saying. Obviously, as an artist, like I don't know if anybody wants to hear you're like, you remind me of this person or that. You're like, no, fuck it, I'm
no
me.
matter who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's just people's way of like, it just helps them like associate, you know what I mean? More 100%. So than like them trying to put you in a box.
Yeah.
And once I realized that, I'm like, cool, I get it. Like, I'm never going to be mad at someone who says like, oh, that reminds me of Joyner Lucas. I'm like, I get it. You know, like he would make a video like, you know, a storytelling type, real like impactful visual.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that's
I agree. That's just like how people consume everything, like not just music, but like movies too. Right. Like people watch movies and they're like, oh, I like this because it reminds me of this. Like it's not that they're trying to box you in as an artist, but
right. But it can feel like that when you're the artist.
100%,
for sure. I had to learn that. Do
you have like, although you don't want to be necessarily labeled as like, oh, you remind me of this, but do you have a certain artist where you personally are like, I really admire the way they're going, and if I could kind of emulate some of that in the way I do my music, I would like, who's kind of your biggest inspirations when it comes to your music?
I mean, there's a lot of them, but I think one like career-wise, or I guess how they approach things is like a J. Cole.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've always appreciated like storytelling, but I don't know, just kind of versatile, like able to jump around. You know what I mean? Not just being like, this is what I do, you're gonna like this one thing. It's like just depends how you're feeling. You can kind of hop on like different records and whatnot. And I always just like how he maneuvered. I take a lot of, like, I studied him a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool.
What type of music do you currently listen to? Like, who's on your rotation recently? I'm just curious. I like to hear who people are into.
Yeah. I listen to like a bunch of random stuff. I can pull up my Spotify, but lately I've been listening to Benny the Butcher's new album. I don't know if you guys are on him, but he like raps his ass off. Mm-hmm. I have my album on here in heavy rotation. Yeah. I've been in my Drake Take Care bag. It's fall time. I feel like it's only necessary once like October, November hits.
It's always Drake season.
It's always, especially around this time. I don't know why. Take Care like holds a special place in my heart. And then other than that, man, just like random. That new Jack Harlow song's fire. Tyler Hero. I bumped some of Joyner's new album. Some Cousin Stiz on here, Boston. Rod Wave.
Yep.
Some old Jay-Z songs. Fabio Foreign, Baby Keem. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he's been crushing it. He's super talented. Some Brent Faiyaz. Yeah, I'm all over the place, man. I'm just like, and I'll listen to a lot of stuff too to like, not even study it, but just like keep up with stuff, you know?
Right.
I feel like as an artist, I'll be like, oh, let's see what this person's doing.
Yeah, like every Friday, like check out whatever the new projects are just to get a sense of like where the game's at.
Yeah, and just keep up with things and like stay in the loop.
Hey, well, this has been awesome, man. We really appreciate you coming on and letting us kind of talk to you about your project and just your journey, because I think that, you know, obviously the show is still really small, but the people who we do know, our loyal listeners, are people who just love hearing the stories of like artists that have started underground and have like, you know, made their
found
way
their
up.
own way. Yeah, it's really inspiring for people like that.
100%. That's all that matters.
Yeah. So before we wrap it up here, where can the people listen to your album and follow you on social media and everything?
Yeah, so I mean the album's available on all streaming platforms. If you just type in JZAC, JZAC, and then on socials, I think all of them are JZAC Music. So JZAC Music, or just Google JZAC.
Yeah,
it'll pop up. Should.
Sweet. Do you have any upcoming music that you want to tease, or like that you can talk about that's you have a release date for coming up, or no? Are you just letting the album kind of marinate for a bit?
I'll definitely let the album marinate for a bit. I have some songs that didn't make the album, but I still really liked. They just didn't fit necessarily.
Right, yeah.
So I think those will drop before the end of the year. I don't think I'm done yet. I think I still got some in the tank for 2020.
That's dope.
We can leave it at that.
Okay, sweet. Matt, where can I follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at @TheMattMogg, MattMoggg.
You guys can follow me at Hey Narwhal on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And you can also check out our other podcast called Peaked in Middle School, which is filmed in the same studio here, but we switch it up. It's with me and my buddy Kyle. It's been growing a lot recently, so go check that one out. But anyways, thanks again, JZAC. This was fun.
Appreciate it, man.
You know, maybe we got to have you on again sometime later down the road when the show's bigger and maybe your next project or something.
For sure. We'll make it happen. I appreciate you guys having me as well.
Yeah.
Of course, bro.
Sweet. Thanks, man.